Every morning, a hidden script begins to play. Before your eyes open, before your feet touch the ground, something ancient and familiar starts whispering inside you. It's not just the thoughts you think. It's the energy you carry. It's the echo of yesterday's emotions, signing itself back into your body like an old contract. Stress, worry, disconnection. You don't ask for them, but they return. Not because you want them, but because your subconscious doesn't yet know another story. This is not your fault. It's the way the mind works when left unguarded. And yet, this is exactly where your power lives. Not in controlling every thought, but in becoming aware of the script you didn't know you were following. The subconscious mind, as Neville Goddard so often reminded us, is not a passive part of you. It is the director behind the scenes, choosing which version of reality you experience. Not by logic, but by feeling. Whatever feels real to you becomes real for you. Not because the universe is judging your worth, but because you rehearsed that version of yourself emotionally, over and over again. Joe Dispenza explains it through the lens of neuroscience. When you wake up, your brain isn't chaotic. It's open. It's chemically stable, almost neutral. This is the sacred doorway between who you were and who you could become. This moment, fragile and fleeting, is your mind's most fertile soil. And yet, what do we often do with it? We flood it with yesterday. We check our phones. We rehearse our fears. We download the same emotional state before we've even chosen what kind of day we want to live. That's not just habit. That's programming. Affirmations in this light are not just phrases. They are frequencies, codes, identity blueprints. If you repeat them from the same emotional vibration that created your suffering, they only deepen the groove. But if you embody them, if you speak them from a different feeling state, even briefly, they begin to rewire your nervous system, your perception, your future. Not instantly, not magically, but biologically, spiritually, consistently. Most people don't realize this. They think affirmations are just about repetition, but the truth is deeper and more sacred. Real change does not happen through saying words. Real change happens when those words are paired with a new emotional rehearsal. That's the shift. That's the moment you stop reliving your past and start rehearsing your future. Not with force, not with effort, but with presence. This video is not about tricks. It's not about forcing positivity. It's about remembering the quiet power you hold in those first few minutes of the day, before the world comes rushing in, before the noise, before the roles. There is space. In that space, you are free to create. And the tools you use, the affirmations you speak, are far more than words. They are invitations. They are new contracts. They are the language of becoming. There's a moment, just after waking, when your body remembers before your mind does. You haven't even reached for your phone, and yet, something inside you already knows how the day will feel. Rushed, heavy, anxious. That knowing isn't intuition, it's repetition. It's a memory stored not in thought, but in sensation. Your nervous system reactivates the exact emotional state you lived yesterday, and the day before, and the one before that. This is the unconscious morning contract, a silent agreement between your body and your past. No matter how strong your intentions are, if your body wakes up vibrating in survival, urgency, worry, numbness, your affirmations can't land. Not because they're wrong, not because you don't believe them, but because the field you're trying to plant them in is not receptive. It's reactive. The soil is frozen, closed, already full. Most people speak of abundance while their cells are still echoing scarcity. They say, "I am calm," while their breath is shallow, their shoulders tense, their heart racing. This isn't self-sabotage. This is vibrational dissonance. You can't plant seeds of light in ground still soaked in fear, and yet there's no shame in this. This is simply how the nervous system protects itself. It chooses the familiar over the unknown, even if the familiar hurts. What changes the contract is not more effort, but awareness, a pause, a moment of presence so small and yet so powerful that it interrupts the cycle. Before you speak an affirmation, you must first make space for it, not in your schedule, in your body, in your energy. That's where real reprogramming begins. Not by declaring who you want to be, but by gently dissolving who you no longer need to be. We've been taught to believe that thinking positively is enough, that if we say the right words, life will somehow rearrange itself in our favor. But words alone are not enough. Not when the body is still speaking the language of fear. Not when the heart is closed. Not when the nervous system is holding its breath. You can repeat, "I am loved" 100 times. But if the cells of your body are still bracing for rejection, the words won't reach the place that needs them most. This is the myth of positive thinking. It promises transformation without embodiment. It masks pain with polished language. It tells you to smile when your soul needs to weep. And in doing so, it creates a quiet dissonance, a split between the truth you feel and the words you speak. That split is not weakness. It's a signal, a message from your inner world asking for coherence, not performance. Science already knows this. The heart, as revealed by countless studies, emits a magnetic field far more powerful than the brain. It doesn't respond to logic, it responds to energy. If your heart contracts while your mouth declares, "I am at peace," no amount of repetition will bridge that gap. Because at the level of frequency, it's not the sentence that matters. It's the signature behind it, the vibration, the emotion, the sincerity. A true affirmation is never a mask. It's an alignment. It's a moment where thought, feeling, and identity come into resonance, where the words you speak are not a wish, but a remembering, not a performance, but a presence. That's when the affirmation becomes medicine, not because it changes your life instantly, but because it begins to harmonize the parts of you that have been living out of tune. That harmony is the real power, and it begins not in the mind, but in the heart. There's a sacred moment that most of us miss. It's quiet, subtle, often only a few seconds long. It happens just as sleep begins to fade, but before the thinking mind takes over. That moment is not empty, it's full. It is what some call the 0-point field, a space where your subconscious is completely open, unguarded, impressionable. In that fragile in-between, you are neither who you were yesterday, nor yet the version you'll step into today. You are possibility, but we rush past it. We reach for distraction, for headlines, for noise. We scroll through the world before we've even returned to our own breath. And just like that, the portal closes. The body remembers its tension. The mind resumes its rehearsed thoughts. The same script plays again, not because it must, but because we never paused long enough to rewrite it. Stillness is not just silence. It's a returning to sensation, to the body, to breath, to the energy that is always moving beneath the surface of your day. In that stillness, even a single phrase, whispered with presence, can do what 1,000 affirmations cannot. I am safe to receive. When spoken from that 0-point space, those 5 words don't just touch the mind, they nourish the field. They imprint the subconscious with something new, something real, something alive. This is quantum nutrition, feeding your inner world, not with more thoughts, but with aligned frequency. This is how change begins. Not with volume, but with depth. Not with more effort, but with a moment of stillness that says, "I'm listening." And in that listening, the field opens, the body softens, and the future begins to whisper its new name. Words alone are not enough. They drift, they vanish, they echo for a moment, and then disappear into the noise of the day. What stays, what truly reprograms, is not what you say, but what you feel while saying it. Not what you think, but what you embody. The nervous system doesn't speak English. Nay, it speaks sensation, rhythm, breath. It understands safety, it understands coherence, and it remembers what is repeated with presence. To anchor a new identity into your system, you need more than intention. You need ritual, a simple structure that grounds your affirmation into the physical, emotional, and energetic layers of who you are. This is not performance. It's not about saying the right thing. It's about creating an internal experience powerful enough to leave a trace, one that the body can return to, one that feels like truth. It begins with the breath. Not just any breath, but rhythmic breathing, slow, even, conscious. For 90 seconds, you let the body exhale the old chemistry. Cortisol softens. The mind clears. The prefrontal cortex lights up. You are no longer in defense. You are now in choice. From this place you speak, not loudly, not forcefully, but with clarity, with vision, with presence. You close your eyes and let the words paint a reality inside you. You don't ask for it, you become it. You feel it land. You let it be true before it is visible. And then you anchor it. A hand on your heart or on your belly. A touch that says, "This is safe, this belongs." You breathe it in, not once, but enough for the nervous system to notice. Enough for the cells to register. This is who we are now. This is Hebb's law in motion. Neurons that fire together, wire together. This is biology meeting intention. This is the moment where repetition becomes transformation, where the affirmation leaves the mind and becomes memory, not of the past, but of the future you're learning to live. Sometimes the words sound right. The breath is calm, the body seems open, and still, nothing changes. The affirmation, so carefully chosen, feels hollow, like it floats above the surface, but never sinks in. You say, "I am worthy," and yet a deeper voice whispers back, "Not really." That voice isn't loud. It doesn't scream. It's quiet, familiar, and deeply rooted. This is the voice of shame, and it lives not in your thoughts, but in the spaces between them. Shame is not dramatic. It's subtle. It hides in the nervous system, in the places where love was once withheld, where rejection left a mark, where failure became identity. It tells you that you're not ready, that you're too much, that you're not enough. And when an affirmation contradicts that belief, it doesn't inspire healing. It triggers resistance. Not because the affirmation is wrong, but because the body still remembers being unloved. This kind of shame doesn't need to be shouted to be real. It's inherited, absorbed, stored in micro-memories, moments that were never fully felt, never fully released. And when that shame is ignored or bypassed, your affirmations will feel like fiction. They will clash with the unspoken contracts still living in your cells. The nervous system won't believe what the conscious mind is saying, not because it doesn't want to, but because it hasn't been given permission to. True healing requires something softer, a willingness to name the resistance, to say, "There is a part of me that still doesn't feel deserving, and that's okay." This is not indulgence. This is integration. Until shame is seen, it cannot be transformed. And when it is gently held and honored, it begins to loosen its grip. Only then can your affirmations find fertile ground. Only then can they become truth, not because you forced them, but because you allowed yourself to feel the part that once blocked them. There's a longing inside you, deep, sincere, aching, a vision of a life more whole, more true, and so you speak it. You affirm abundance. You declare love. You imagine peace, but day after day, nothing seems to shift. And quietly, the question begins to rise. Why isn't it working? The answer is not in your effort. It's in your frequency. The universe is not responding to your words. It is responding to your state of being. Neville Goddard spoke this truth with clarity. You do not manifest what you want. You manifest what you are in consciousness. And what you are is not just a thought. It is a vibration, a tone, a field of coherence or incoherence. It is the energy behind your intention, the identity beneath your desire, the subconscious contract that tells the universe, "This is me," not the version you wish to become, but the one you've rehearsed for years. When you affirm from a place of lack, the signal you send is not the affirmation, it is the lack. "I want" becomes a message of absence, a reinforcement of distance. The more you want, the more you confirm that you do not yet have. Wanting, in the quantum field, creates waiting. Being creates magnetism. This is not philosophy. This is resonance, coherence, alignment between thought, emotion, and embodiment. "I am" is not a request. It is a creation code. When spoken with presence, with emotional truth, with identity alignment, it shapes reality. Not because you pushed, not because you proved, but because you remembered who you are beneath the noise of conditioning, The universe is not listening for effort. It is reflecting coherence. It's not measuring your worth. It's mirroring your frequency. And the shift happens not when you want more, but when you become the version of you who already holds it. Quietly, naturally, without needing to convince anyone, not even yourself. Transformation doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it begins quietly, in the space between one breath and the next, in the tender repetition of a phrase spoken before the world awakens. It doesn't shout, it whispers. And in that whisper, something real begins to move. These stories are not about perfection. They are about resonance. They remind us that even a small shift, when repeated with presence, can change the entire direction of a life. She had lived with anxiety for years, the kind that tightens the chest before the day even begins. Her mornings were battles, but something in her softened when she heard the words, "I trust the pace of life," not just once, but every morning, spoken with her hand over her heart, her breath slow, her eyes closed. She didn't try to erase the anxiety. She made space for something gentler to exist alongside it. And within weeks, the panic that once ruled her mornings began to dissolve. Not through force, through presence, through practice. He felt invisible at work, overlooked, silent in rooms where he longed to be heard. But he began to say something different each morning. "My voice moves energy." He didn't shout it. He didn't try to prove it. He felt it. He imagined it. He rehearsed it. And slowly, the world responded. Colleagues began to ask for his input. He was invited to meetings he'd once been excluded from. And not because he fought for a seat, but because he started showing up as someone who belonged. And then there was the seeker, a man carrying the heavy weight of scarcity, spiritual, financial, emotional. His affirmation was simple: "I am a safe place for abundance." At first it felt foreign, but he stayed with it. He let it land in his body, day after day. And as guilt surfaced, he didn't run. He listened. He held it. He let the affirmation meet the wound. And one day, without warning, abundance came, not from hustle, but from surrender, an unexpected inheritance. But more than that, a new inner stability, a deep knowing that he could receive without shame. These aren't miracles. They're mirrors, reflections of what becomes possible when intention meets emotion, when words become rituals, and when the morning becomes a sacred space for remembering who you are. Not someday, but now. Every cell in your body is listening, not to your thoughts, but to your beliefs. Not to what you say once, but to what you embody again and again. This is not poetic metaphor. This is biology. Bruce Lipton showed us that belief systems are not passive. They are instructions. Genetic expression is not fixed. It is responsive. Your body is not a machine following a script. It is a living field responding to emotional frequency, to inner truth, to vibrational signals encoded through repetition and feeling. Morning affirmations, then, are not positive thinking. They are acts of cellular communication. They are blueprints, maps, tiny prayers not sent upward, but inward. They carry the potential to rewire not just the mind, but the very biology that shapes your energy, your mood, your presence. But only when they come from coherence. Only when they are spoken not to fix what is broken, but to honor what is becoming. Greg Braden reminds us that ancient traditions understood this far before science could measure it. Prayer was not begging for rain. It was feeling the rain, as if it had already come. It was not asking. It was embodying, not in hope, but in certainty, because the field responds not to need, but to resonance, to wholeness, to alignment between thought, feeling, and being. This is what you're doing each morning. You are not convincing the universe of your worth. You are becoming the version of you that the universe already knows is true. You are tuning your frequency to match the life that has been waiting for your readiness. And every time you pause, breathe, feel, and speak from this place, you build a new pattern, a new identity, a new field of possibility. 30 days. That is all it takes to shift the script, not through force, not through perfection, but through presence, through willingness, through repetition, infused with soul. This is not routine. This is epigenetic alchemy, and it begins not in the mind, but in the moment you choose to become what you once believed was only possible someday. So now the question that remains is simple and sacred. Who are you becoming when no one is watching but your own soul?